Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are back for our final, don't be scared, post-match analysis show of the 2024-2025 season. Look, if you're with us miraculously for the first time, how have you only found us for the first time? If you have just found us for the first time, where have you been? We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're on Blue Sky too. I've got three of the best therapists that we've got amongst a cast set of about 20, 25 or 30, 35, 40 over the course of this season that I know have been put through to some degree what they term in the UK as the ringer. But of course, Tottenham have secured a European trophy. And look, I want to say at the top of this show, there'll be a lot of conflicting views. There'll be a lot of conflicting feelings. But what I want to say at the top, which I know a lot lead to the end, is I want to thank not just the contributors to this show, but the panelists, the audience members, the viewers, the listeners that make this show what it is. And we can't do it without you. I mean that. I know that we're going to have conversations that some are going to feel awkward to have, some aren't going to want to have. But the reality is, football is such a unique sport. And as TJ says, whenever he's on here, it is the one thing that connects so many people across the planet. And you know what? We've made some really strong bonded friendships over the last 2, 3, 4 years. I think I've got to say that this season in particular has definitely strengthened the group that do Last Word on Spurs. And these three gentlemen are accustomed to having been put on and brought on some very, very tough shows. So look, in terms of what this show is going to provide, it's going to provide you with the reaction, of course, to Tottenham's 4-1 home defeat to Brighton. No, I wasn't expecting to say that, but Tottenham is Tottenham. We'll be discussing where that does leave Ange Postecoglou's future, which, as we record this show, is currently undecided. But in typical Tottenham fashion, that can change at any time and at any moment. And of course, that will be probably a massive, massive talking point on this show. And before I bring in these wonderful esteemed gentlemen, let's just tell you what it all does mean for Tottenham's end to the Premier League season. Of course, it finished Tottenham 1, Brighton 4. It means Spurs do finish on 38 points. It's their worst return in 48 years since 1977, where they were relegated. 10 losses at home and 22 from 38 Premier League games, the most defeats in a 38-match season in top flight history, not to be relegated. Let me just say that again, if those didn't hear that the first time. The most defeats in a 38-match season in top flight history, not to be relegated. Match facts and stats very, very quickly. Tottenham 1, Brighton 4. Tottenham's 4 shots to Brighton's 23. Tottenham 2 shots on target to Brighton's 8. 10 touches Tottenham had in the Brighton box to Brighton's 46. Tackles wise, 14 for Tottenham, 19 for Brighton. You can see this is going to probably go in this theme on the stats. Interception wise, 9 interceptions for Tottenham, 7 for Brighton. Tottenham, 34 recoveries, 47 for Brighton. Clearance wise, Tottenham the busier of the two sides again, 39 to 7. Possession wise, 32% for Tottenham to 68 for Brighton. And XG, that was 1.95 for Tottenham to Brighton's 2.27. Last thing I will say before bringing in these esteemed gentlemen is that it's worth noting, just balance of the show, majority within the Tottenham squad parted until 7 a.m. after the Europa League win, while some chose not to sleep at all. The squad then flew back to Stansted Airport, and we're looking at a day, I think, before the parade or a day after the parade, and we're due for light training before the parade of that afternoon. So that kind of gives you an indication of players' mindset, where they was really in regards to the build-up for this game. But Russ, I'm going to come to you. You'll be pleased to know, Russ, we're going to try and give him a 3-month break, although Russ has said, I don't want to put words in his mouth. He may come on for the odd period between then and now. And there was so much love I got to say for Russ was at the stadium earlier before this game. Russ, Spurs finished their season, as I mentioned, losing 4-1 at home to Brighton, leaving them, I've mentioned, 17th after 22 defeats. And obviously, of course, achieving just 38 points as a whole. They are Europa League champions. They have ended a 17-year trophy drought. They are back in the Champions League. Mad, crazy, unbelievable season. Sum up your feelings over the last 24, 48, 72 hours, if you can.
Like everybody else, to win a trophy, fantastic. I mean, absolutely brilliant. Wasn't a pretty watch. And I was the one on the pod, Rick. Just want to remind you, I said Brennan Johnson will score. And he did. So Rostradamus, you can call me now. It was a lucky guess. But to be serious, absolutely brilliant to win a trophy after all this time. And a lot of effort and a lot of mistakes on the way from the owners and managers over the years. And for Ange Postecoglou to come out and to say, I always win a trophy in my second year, ballsy, and actually deliver it is quite something. On a roulette wheel, he would have put his last chip on 0 and it came in. The question is he a consistently good gambler? I suspect that he probably isn't. But on the game today, after the euphoria of winning the Europa League and being in the Champions League, which is so important, as we all know, to the future of our club, when you've got a manager who openly admits that in January, I made up my mind the Europa League was all we were going to concentrate on, are you surprised at the result today after they won the trophy? I mean, the stats were horrendous, and I think it's a big alarm bell for next season in the Premier League with this group of players, with this coaching staff, and with this head coach. I just don't think you can look at it any other way. But I know we're going to come on to Ange a little bit later on, and I know we're going to hear the press conference in a minute. So I'll say right at the start of the show, so I can't be accused of anything, whoever is the manager of our football club next season, they get my full support, and I'm sure they get everyone's full support because we're fans of the club. What he's done is extraordinary against all the odds. He's managed to pull it off. And for that, we should be grateful, and we should recognise that Ange Postecoglou has given us a fantastic night. It wasn't the hardest of runs to get to the final, but, you're there, you have to do it. And we did it in Bilbao and defended supremely well. Highlight of the game for me, Mickey van der Ven's clearance, even more important than Brennan Johnson's goal in many ways. But look, Aussie Ange did it. He started with Ange ball at the club, first 2 or 3 months, fantastic. And then I'm afraid, particularly this season, apart from in the Europa League, it became lose ball. And that is where the problem is.
Russ, thank you so much, mate. Loads of you back, which I'm sure is going to be a very intriguing, fascinating show to come. We're also joining the show. I've had to pick him back up, put him back out there, repack him on the shelf. The wonderful Patrick Tyrant's back on the show. Pat, lovely to have you here. Pat, I think, said to me, God, this was in January, maybe later than January. He just said to me, Rick, get me to 40 points. And I laughed at Pat at the time. I said, Pat, don't be stupid. We're going to get to 40 points. Isn't it crazy? Tottenham did not achieve the 40-point mark in the Premier League this season. And God, you know what? It's been an absolutely testing campaign. I know for a lot of Tottenham fans that have listened and watched Last One of Spurs over the last 7-8 years, seasons, if you want to put it like that, been a massive test. We've all pulled through it together. We've all got through. Pat, thank you so much, mate. We had a lovely day together at the parade. I know it's been, a mad week. We had the heaviest of highs, where we thought we can't come down. And look, to some degree, we won a trophy and many still can't come down. But obviously, we've got a game to discuss, a game to review. And it was a defeat for Tottenham. Obviously, the nature of it was mad, wasn't it? When you think about the incredible scenes in the last seconds as when Brighton put in the 4th goal, the Spurs fans are responding by waving their flags in the air and singing, "Oh, when the Spurs." And as the song goes, 17th, I don't know how, we won it in Bilbao. Pat, we're going to come obviously on to Ange's future, but overall takeaways, if you can, from Tottenham 1, Brighton 4.
Yeah, now Ricky, once again, I want to just say, because this is we did a pod pretty much after the parade. It was a late one, so I'm not sure if many people caught it. I was on with Jace, and it was just our thoughts and feelings after such a magical week, magical day, the Wednesday and the Friday. And obviously today we're brought crashing back down to earth and back down to reality. But I do want to say on this pod, like, shout out to Ricky, man. He's the hardest working podcaster I know, and he works relentlessly for you guys, as in the fans, the viewers and the listeners, to put out quality content day in and day out. And obviously you get such esteemed guests like Russ, Irish Hotspur, your Crackers, your Lees, your Jason McGoverns, pretty much the best of the best, the creme de la creme, and it's all for you guys. So I just want to shout out to Ricky. It's been an amazing season of highs and lows, ups and downs, and we've met so many good people this year in terms of people on the podcast, the viewers, the watchers, the followers on Twitter or X, however you want to call it. So I want to shout out to all of you guys, and the fact that we've finished with a trophy is amazing. It's fantastic. Something that we all thought we could do it, but we never envisioned it, especially after the way the season's gone. So the fact that we're all sitting here as winners, as champions, as Champions League contenders next season, when you finish 17th in the league, you can't make this up. It's insane. I don't know if there's anyone that's ever done that before, finished as low as they have in the league and qualified for Champions League football. It's insane. And off the back of that, we've got to talk about this game today and the takeaways. And we all thought, yeah, maybe the Tottenham team wouldn't be as on it or at it as they should be because it's been a weaker party, and we get that. But we got absolutely just outplayed. And the first half was actually a decent, first half of football, in terms of we weathered the storm, created a goal scoring chance, was brought down in the box. And, Dominic Solanke slotted home a penalty. We went in 1-0 up. I thought, okay, cool, this seems okay. But second half, we absolutely got torn a new one. And really and truly, every single red flag and every single alarm bell of me sitting there throughout this league's campaign and watching Tottenham, it all came flooding back. So every single emotion and high of winning the trophy on Wednesday, today was brought back to reality of why I've been saying for a long time that I don't want Ange as my manager. And obviously we're going to get into that. I'm not touching on that right now, but it just really reminded me of why, Ange Postecoglou has such a big divide. We just weren't at it. He stood there, the tactics weren't there, the players looked like they didn't know what they're doing. And it's so frustrating because we see in the Europa League we can do it. And I get it, today's the last day of the season and stuff, but 22 losses, that's mental. And for me in this bubble, I'm thinking, am I overdoing it? You're in it, so sometimes you have to take a step away and think maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. But I've taken a look at some of the relegation stats, some of the teams that have been relegated, and we are as bad. We are lucky, and we've been saying it all season. We're lucky that the 3 teams that came up just weren't equipped for Premier League football and they went straight back down. Because in other seasons, in the 10-11 season, Birmingham finished 18th with 15 losses, 1-5. 39 points and got relegated. Put that into context. So they had way less losses than us, 1 more point and got relegated. In the 12-13 season, when Wigan finished 18th and won a trophy, they finished on 20 losses, 36 points. So quite similar to where we are now, and they got relegated. In the 15-16 season, you'll remember this clearly. Everyone will remember this day because on the last day of the season, we were chasing Leicester for the title all year. And once we realised that we couldn't catch them, we kind of took our foot off the gas. We played Newcastle at home, and they were basically relegated already. They finished on 19 losses, 37 points, and they got relegated. 19 losses. We finished on 22 losses. They finished on 37 points. So very similar. And obviously we finished third that season, 70 points. Arsenal pipped us to second, and we got bantered. You finished third in the 2-horse race. So you lot will remember that season. So we are absolutely shocking. And in other seasons, when there's more at it at the bottom half of the league, we would have got relegated. So for me, obviously, we can celebrate and be happy about winning our Europa League, but there are major concerns. And I think once the dust settles, people really need to take a look at that table again and realise that we are absolutely shocking. And in other seasons, we would have got relegated.
Pat, Thank you so much. Listen, really appreciate the opening there. And there's a lot of insightful things that Pat always does bring to the show and just gives you, again, some really fascinating...
I'm sorry, Vicky, just another one, just to put it into context, because this is quite recently, and people remember this. Vincent Kompany's team, the 21-22 Burnley team, they finished 18th. Played some really good football, just went at the level to stay up in the league. 17 losses, and they got relegated on 35 points. So just to put things into context, so you've got a nice mix of different teams and different eras, and it is quite worrying because, you know, for me, we'll get into it, but yeah, just food for thought for the people in the stream watching right now.
Russ, thank you so much. Getting lots of love, I gotta say, across the panel. Let's bring in a man who's already told me he's definitely taken a week off. Have you got me there, guys? I think you have got me okay. The wonderful David from the Irish Hotspur is here. And Dave, of course, does a lot of content over also, of course, at the Irish Hotspur. We've got Dave back on here, a man that I've absolutely adored sharing the screen with over the past 12, 18 months and who's become a regular face here on Last Word on Spurs. He was telling me how he was down at the parade. He was getting lots of love for the show. I'm sorry, Dave, you know it now. It comes with the territory with regards to what comes on here and then what you get in return. Listen, I'm sure we're all thankful for the love we do get for this show. But it is quite simply a crazy balmy end to what's been a roller coaster of a season that we've kind of summed up in terms of the facts, just how brutal it has been. What have you made, Dave, of the last 24, 48, 72 hours, if you can find the words to try and put it into it?
Look, I think the whole season in general, I think it's been such, you know, contrast and emotions. You know, one minute you have severe lows and then the next minute you have severe highs. Honestly, it's just tired me out. You know, I'm absolutely tired. You know, feeling so low one minute and so high the next minute is absolutely exhausting. And I've got to the point, I just need a week away. I just need a week away, no phone, no news, and just take a step back and just sort of soak it all in, live in the moment. Because this is something I don't think we do enough as Spurs fans. You know, we moan the lack of, and bemoan the lack of success at this football club. We've had to wait 17 years for a trophy. We've had to wait 41 years for a European trophy. But, you know, a couple of days later already, we're sitting here discussing next season, the manager, you know, all the defeats and stuff like that. Me, I just want to live in the moment right now. You know, I might never, ever see this again. I might never, ever see that scenes that I was witnessed and that I was there for at the parade, you know, that I've been waiting for all my life. I may never see that again. You know, I was watching the video that Tottenham done with people that, you know, family members that have passed away and stuff, people that weren't fortunate enough to see that. And I look at stuff like that and I just think, do you know what? Sometimes life is tough, especially being a Spurs fan. 99% of life is against you. Sometimes you just have to take in your surroundings and enjoy and live in the moment. And that's what I'm choosing to do right now. To me, look, I don't think, you know, right now is the right time to be having these discussions about anyone's future right now. I think everyone should, you know, take a step back for the next week or two, enjoy it, go away, clear your head, and then come back. Because right now, none of these conversations are really fruitful to a large degree because with the contrast and emotions this season, everyone's entrapped in their camp. There's going to be no leeway either side. I think everyone just takes a step back, takes a little breather, enjoys the success. Because, look, it's all about the manager. And that's one thing that's annoying me. You know, it's either Ange in or Ange out. And sometimes I think it's the football club. It's Tottenham Hotspur. And at the end of the day, whatever decision we make has to be right for Tottenham Hotspur and not off your personal feeling or the way that you know, which is based usually off how your emotions have been and stuff like that. I just think clearer heads will prevail in a week or two. But right now, let's live in the moment. Look, I fully understand I'm going to be pressed here for an answer on it tonight on where I stand. And I fully understand this is the name of the game. You have these conversations and stuff like that. But I just sometimes wish that sometimes we could just enjoy the success a little bit longer than what we currently are.
Dave, I hear absolutely every word you're saying. And you know what? You're right in what you're saying in terms of, you know, there should be a period of reflection before you have to react. The problem, I think, with football is that football is such a fast-paced, moving situation where by the time if we were to sit on this for 2 weeks, a decision has already been made. And that's the nature of the beast that we're in. And look, I will just say that I know there's going to be conversations that many will feel uncomfortable to be had when the manager has brought to the club. I will say this as well. You know, for me, my greatest footballing moment as a fan, where I had my little boy I've got 2 boys, one of my oldest boys in my arms, and had that moment with my parents, my wife, my brothers, gave me my greatest footballing moment as a fan. And then here we are 48 days later, or 48 hours, I wish it was 48 days later, 48 hours later, where we're then having to discuss kind of what comes next for the football club. But that is what we're in. And I was saying this to a lot of people around me at the stadium. I don't know any other football club that has ever had a predicament like this in terms of this situation. But he might say about Manchester United, and I mean, look, you could look at them as an example, but a club like Tottenham, where you've just ended a 17-year trophy drought, you've just won your first European trophy in over 40 years, and here we are having to have a discussion about the manager who has achieved the worst ever Premier League points total for the club in their history, and coincidentally on another season could have got relegated. Should he lose his job after giving fans, some of them, the best night of their footballing supporting life? I just think this is such a Tottenham crazy situation to be in. Sorry,
do you know what I've learned today, though, Ricky? I think, you know, I was saying this to you before the show started. I think someone asked me a question in my pre-match show today. You know, will today's result have any bearing on how people feel about Ange? And I was sitting there, I was sort of, and big up Patrick, it was a guy called Patrick who asked the question, but I was sort of dismissive of it to a little degree. I was like, no, I think, you know, the general consensus is now most people will give him a chance going into next season. And look, I was the same. But then, you know, you look at today's result, and I don't know what it was like for the match-going fans, but very quickly online, as soon as we started losing, you know, everyone sort of sobered up to a large degree. You know, that good feel factor of the Europa League was sort of gone, and then, you know, everyone was like, no, look, thanks for the Europa League, you got to go, get them gone. I tuned into the Spurs YouTube channel to watch the parade session. I mean, 20 minutes before it even started, it was just one after another, Ange out the whole way. And I think, you know, what I've learned today is the disconnect that's there between the manager and the fan base. That European trophy hasn't been enough to heal it. And I think going into next season, he's going to be under immediate pressure and immediate scrutiny, which I'm not sure is the right thing for Tottenham moving into next season. I almost look at it, it's like you bring in a new manager, he's going to be given a while to sort of get it going and stuff like that. But look, I think today sobered many people up, you know, to the harsh reality, and it brought back many questions, you know, and brought us back down to reality. We can't seem to sustain wins or multiple competitions. You know, Ange's in-game management, I'm sort of looking at the game today, and don't get me wrong, understand there's been parenting for 4 or 5 days. Most Spurs fans have been parenting for 4 or 5 days. It's a hard ask. But there was a period of that game where Brighton got on top in the second half. I actually thought the first half, to be honest with you, I applauded them off the pitch. I wasn't expecting it. But the second half, you know, I'm almost looking at, after Brighton scored the first goal, I'm looking at players getting tired, maybe the beer catching up on them in their system and stuff. And I'm saying, make changes now, freshen it up, and let's just even try and stay in the game a little bit, compete, get back after pressing that ball. Because when we set off teams, that's where our big trouble comes in. We just allow them to play through us. When we go and press them like we did in the first half, we forced them back. They didn't really have the answers. And I'm thinking, make substitutions now. And he didn't. He waited till we went 2-1 down. And he made subs. And it's not the first time he's done that this season. There's been multiple times he's waited till, you know, we've gone behind to make substitutions. And it just brings back all them questions. Going into next season, is he good enough in terms of the caliber that he has to compete against? But also, can he compete across 4 competitions? Because that's the expectation now. You know, winning the Europa League brings more pressure to succeed. It brings more scrutiny. And based off the 2 seasons, either clubs have to give for the first season in order for us to finish 5th in the league, and then this season the league has to give for us to get over to win a trophy. That's not acceptable moving forward. Last season he may have got his excuses. This season, to a large degree, delivering trophies, he may have got a free pass. It's not going to be there next year. This is a big decision for the football club to make.
Yeah, it is. And at the time of recording, I must just say, as David is referring to in relation to it being a big decision for the club to make, we're being told by the Standard that Daniel Levy at present is thought to be undecided on Ange Postecoglou's future after a season of extremes. Naturally, with Tottenham, you never know what's next. I mean, we've been doing this show for the last 7-8 years. I mean, how can you guess this football club? You can't. I mean, how can you guess this football club when they've sacked Martin Jol at half time? They've sacked, of course, Jose Mourinho 5 days for a cup final. You're itching to come back in. What do you want to say on that point?
George Graham, days before a semi-final against Arsenal. I mean, the behaviour and the actions of of the board over many, many years has been, to put it kindly, erratic, absolutely shambolic, to put it unkindly. And, I think it's significant that, the Evening Standard understand that Daniel Levy is undecided. Well, that tells me if he was convinced that Ange Postecoglou was the man to go ahead with, he would have said it by now. He didn't say anything in his statement either. And, I haven't changed. I've got to say, Rick, I haven't changed my position. To all the fans who are passionately Ange-in, and, they have all our respect because this is an open forum. My views would be like a flat earther to them, because I just think it is absolutely obvious that, the tactics consistently wrong.
You know what? I'm gonna ask you. I'll let you come back on this point and give us an opportunity to obviously put that in a bit more detail to us, because I think many people are going to want to hear what you're going to say on that. Because to be fair, you have been consistent all season. I think, like I said, one of the main things that was put to me, that was made very clear to me, is being in that stadium in the game, was someone said to me, many people said, I'm so glad Russ is on. Russ has an opinion. He sticks to it. He isn't fair with a fan. He remains consistent all along in terms of what he says.
Wow.
He sees what is happening out there, and he brings that to the show. And that's why people love you. So look, we do need to hear from Ange Postecoglou. We're going to bring in his press comments in just a second. Russ touched on something very, very important there, that there was, before the game, Daniel Levy's annual chairman's message, to which, actually, for those that weren't aware, after the game, Daniel Levy was being shown on the big screen, and this was the reaction to that. So Daniel Levy booed at the stadium as soon as his image was flashed up on the screen. I'm going to bring that statement into you very, very quickly, and then we'll come on to what it means for Daniel in more of the longer term future, if there is one for Daniel at this football club, for fans out there. Daniel Levy delivered his address to the club supporters, but at the same time did not provide really any kind of clarification on Ange Postecoglou's future. He said, "Dear all, we did it. What an unforgettable night that was in Bilbao, as we ended our long wait for glory. This is a huge moment for the whole club, an historic achievement that sees us lift our first European trophy since 1984. This club has been an incredible journey on and off the pitch since we last won silverware, the League Cup, back in 2008, establishing ourselves as one of the biggest in Europe, moving into a new stadium and experiencing some incredible moments. We knew a trophy was the missing piece. We've come close on a number of occasions and never quite got over the line. I have never wavered from the belief that success is just around the corner. I'd like to thank Ange Postecoglou, the players, for making this incredible achievement possible, and a big thanks to all of the backroom staff at the football club. I'd like to again thank you, the fans, for staying with us and carrying that same belief. I know it's been hard at times, and I've shared in that pain and frustration along the way. But when we can all come together, we know we can achieve something special. Your support, whether that was in Bilbao, in our own stadium, or in pubs and homes around the world, was the driving force behind our team. This is one trophy. Our clear ambition as a club has always been long-term, sustained success, competing for top honours every year. This is interesting. We have now tasted success, and we are determined to use this as a springboard for more. Let's enjoy this moment as a club together. Finish the season strong, which unfortunately we didn't, with a win, and go again. Most of all, be proud. Come on, you Spurs, Daniel. So that was Daniel Levy's chairman's message before the game. And Postecoglou also delivered a message before the game that I'm going to give a brief readout to, where Ange addressed at the time the Spurs fans in that programme and said, "Europa League winners, champions of Europe." Let that sink in for a minute. It sounds pretty incredible, doesn't it? I'm writing these notes the day after our historic victory over Manchester United in Bilbao. Brennan's first half goal was enough to win us the game, and it was an outstanding team performance from back to front, full of grit, determination and quality. The scenes that greeted the full-time whistle and went long into the night will remain forever etched in my memory. To see what it means to the tens of thousands of you packed inside the Estadio de San Mamés, and knowing there were hundreds of thousands more watching in the Bilbao fan zone at our stadium and tuning in around the world, experiencing exactly the same emotion, shows what a huge achievement it is and a truly special club we represent. I often speak about my pride in the group of players and staff, especially during testing times, of which there's been plenty this season. I didn't think it was possible. However, my love and admiration for them has grown in recent weeks with their drive and commitment to achieve success that everyone wanted. Their reward is playing in next year's Champions League, and something they should fully deserve. He was talking also about the fact of trying to finish the season on a high in what has been a challenging season with some incredible highs and lows, but the backing for the team has never wavered. Whether we have been here, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, on the road, or a midweek trip in Europe, you've always been there in great numbers, making yourself heard and championing the club. Our success would be nothing without you, and I'm delighted that you had the opportunity to share that with us at the parade on Friday. Have a great summer. Come on, you Spurs. That was Ange's message. We're going to go for our first break of this show. We're now going to hear from Ange Postecoglou directly for the next 5-10 minutes, who is very much grilled on his future, what that looks like. When we come back, we'll be getting into that conversation, getting exactly Russ Williams' thoughts, Pat's thoughts, and Dave from the Irish Hotspur thoughts. I must just say, there is over 5,000 of you watching the show live. Thank you so much for all your incredible support for not this show, across the season. You guys and girls out there are absolutely amazing. Please keep liking. Please keep subscribing. Let's hear from Tottenham Hotspur's European League winning manager, Ange Postecoglou, who gives his reaction to Tottenham Hotspur's 4-1 home defeat to Brighton and what that exactly means for his future at the football club.
Ali?
Just goes running out of steam today for some of those players.
Yeah, we were. Look, the emotion of the last 3 days, aside from the game itself, and obviously, the players are allowed to celebrate that, but I think, irrespective of that, just the emotions of the last 3 days was all going to be a bit of a difficult, tricky one for us today. I thought first half we competed well. Probably could have had a second goal, which kind of would have made it a little bit easier for us. Even in the second half, Brent's got a great opportunity, but you could tell in the last 35 minutes we'd run out of legs, and kind of understandable from the players. Look, they've been outstanding with us this year. We've obviously, given them some difficult moments for sure, and like any supporter, they want their team to do well. They don't like, losing games the way we have been. But the backdrop of that was also that, we've given them a night and a couple of subsequent days that will live with them forever. And I think that was always the main driver. And I'm just, super pleased that, for all we've sort of been through this year as a club and our supporters have been through, I think the overriding emotion this year will be how they've felt the last 3 days.
Just on that, you said a while back that you felt that having succeeded in unifying the club. Given the sort of scenes today, where do you feel you're at with that now?
Yeah, look, I think it's fair to say I think the last few days have shown, how the club can be when it is. It's a massive club. It's got such a massive reach. People are very passionate about it. You've just seen, you've seen the sort of outpouring of emotions over the last 2 or 3 days. What it means to people, and that's something we need to build on. That's something we need to sort of tap into, and moving forward. That when we're all together like that, you show the force of the club, and that's what a trophy does. That's what doing something like we've done the last sort of couple of days does. I think it just means people feel that extra connection and want more of it.
I guess, is that an argument for you staying, that it
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've been finding it really weird talking about my future when, like I said, we've done something unprecedented. So I've had to answer the questions because no one else at the club is kind of in the position to do so, I guess. But I can't answer that question about me and my future. And like I said, part of me is kind of thinking, well, you know, why am I even being asked that question? But it is what it is, and I've got no doubt though that you know this could be a real sort of defining moment for this club because you know, like I said, wherever I've been, I've kind of you know made an impact where I've brought success to a club that hasn't had it for a while, and you just have to look at those clubs' trajectory. Even after I've left, they're still, you know, competing for things. And you know, I really think this is a moment in time where this club can really push on and you know be a real contender for honours on a yearly basis.
And you know we're all waiting to answer the question.
Yeah.
Presumably, the reason ownership might be deliberating is the league campaign. What can you say about why next season, if you do carry on, will be different than Premier League?
Well, look, I think from my perspective, I made decisions that I felt were the best, going to give us the best chance for achieving the goal we needed to achieve this year, and that's affected, you know, our league form. If people don't want to take that into account, then there's nothing I can say to kind of explain it any better than that. I came to the club when it finished 8th. I didn't take over a club that finished 2nd. Had no European football to speak of. It lost the one player that probably guarantees you European football. That was my starting point. At the end of 2 years, I've got the club a trophy it's been crying out for, Champions League football. We finished 5th last year. Either people are saying last year was a huge anomaly for us to finish 5th, or you know this is what we deliver. I've got no doubt next year we'll be in a much stronger position in the league, challenging for the top places. I've got no doubt we'll tackle Champions League with the same determination that we tackled the Europa League. I have no doubts about that, and I think if people are seeking any more evidence about me, then there's nothing that I'm going to say it's going to convince them if they haven't seen it in the last 2 years.
And what are you sort of about that? We know the injuries are obviously a really key part of this. Is that an area where you think we do things differently?
I've already said that's part of it, but also, as I said, we signed 3 teenagers at the start of the year. Like we signed two 18-year-olds and a 19-year-old. We went that direction. So and think about who left last year, yeah? Okay, players with experience. So whenever you do that, there's always going to be a little bit of a gap in the development. So that cascading into our injury situation at the start of the year obviously had a massive effect on what we could do in the league. And again, it was our success in the Carabao Cup and our success in the Europa League that added to that as well. So you either assess it all in its totality, or you just separate it and say, well, you know what, it's just not good enough, or it's unbelievable. So you either fall into those categories. But you know, like I said, at the start of next year, that we'll be in a much better position from the point of view of even the 3 young boys we signed. You know, Lucas is not a young boy anymore. He's going to be a massive contributor. At the start of the year, you know, that wasn't the case. Archie and Wilson's hardly played this year. And if we do some good business in the transfer market, and like to bring some experience in, I'm not talking about age, I'm talking about players who have played at this level and, you know, can help the team, then I've got no doubt we can make the impact we want.
Experience in the market would be the most
Yeah, I think not just for us, any club that gets into the Champions League, I think understands that. I think that's, it's the the most elite competition in Europe, and it's great demand. So yeah, I think every club that gets into Champions League sees it an opportunity to strengthen with, like I said, experience probably not the right word, but players who have played at that level, who are going to be comfortable at that level, not players who are stepping up to that level. That's the difference. Yeah.
And there's other futures to sort Cutie Romero's everything to move away. How key is it that Tottenham keep it, and do you feel like you could be the man to actually keep him?
Yeah, look, I think Romero is absolutely important to keep at this football club. You just saw the way he's been in the last, and he hasn't been fully fit, to be fair to him, with his toe, but you've seen he's a World Cup winner. He's a winner, and you saw that in all the big games we've had, and I think the lads certainly respect him very highly, and he makes them tall, walk a bit taller. So, from my perspective, it's a no-brainer about, making sure that players like him, because, if he goes, who do you replace him with? There's not too many out there like him. So, it'd be very important for the club to try and retain him and retain him for the longer term, I think. My gut feeling? My gut feeling is that I feel right now that I've done something that no one believed I could. And I shouldn't be here sitting there talking about it. That's my feeling. But it is what it is. As I said, I'm, and probably I'm talking now because I'm tired, mate. And it's done. I don't have to think about another game, and I just want to go on a break and enjoy my family and reflect on being part of something unbelievably special. Like, it's just, I said I've been fortunate to be in this position a number of times, but seeing those scenes yesterday and the people who've reached out to me and talked to me about, how it's affected and what's happened the last couple of days, that's just a beautiful thing, and I just want to enjoy that. And to be honest, the rest of it, I don't even want to be talking about it. It's just, I just think it's, it's unnecessary. No, but you're right to ask the question, but you're, yeah, that's right. But you're asking the person who can't give you that answer. So that's, and I guess, even for you guys, you wouldn't be asking it if there wasn't a doubt, right? So, but I can't answer it. There's nothing I can say that can answer that question. Other people can. So, from my perspective, it doesn't diminish the achievement. And like I said, I'm so confident about what we can build at this football club, and I want to push on and take it to the next level, and we'll see whether that happens or not.
Jerry, to finish, please.
Sure.
Ange, when you came to the club, you knew the history of the club, you knew the size of the task. Seeing the reactions of the fans over the last 3-5 days, has it even surprised you, this outpouring of emotion?
Yeah, like I said, I think especially, even yesterday the day before, the parade, and it's just been overwhelming, yeah, but I understand it, because when you think about 17 years without any sort of silverware, that means, you work it out, what's that, 50 games a year that these supporters have, supported their football club with everything in their heart, and they haven't been able to enjoy a day like they have, for those, whatever, 900 games, whatever they are, I don't know what they are. And not only that, they've seen other clubs do it, which doubles the pain. And they've had no experience where they can reflect on it for themselves, for everything they've been through. So I understand it, and I knew that, there's, the legends were out there, and they're still remembered because of that, and there's been a lot of footballers that have come through these doors since then, world-class footballers, but they haven't made the impact that this group has, and I think they'll be remembered for that. So, I I love how it's made people feel really sort of, it's filled a massive hole that they've had for so long, that they now can proudly say their club is a trophy winner. It's a champion of a competition. There is no more this, slide of, yeah, you're a great club, but you've never won anything. That's done, and I'm super proud of that.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you go, guys. That was the thoughts of Tottenham Hotspur head coach for now, and Postecoglou. Fascinating decision Spurs have got on their hands when it comes to what Tottenham do next. And I think I've got to just say this on Ange's behalf. That can't be easy when you're having to sit there and front up questions about your job and you've been given no clarity since, again, just an opinion. You've brought home the Europa League to the fans. You've ended this 17-year trophy drought. You've obviously achieved this trophy after 41 years, a European trophy. I do feel for Ange. It's uncomfortable to be in that position where you've been given and offered no clarity on your future. But football is a very strange business. It's unlike any other business, any other job in the world. And unfortunately, in the nature of what we have discussions on this show, it's the crazy thing about people will speculate on your job and have an opinion on what should and shouldn't happen when it comes to if you should keep your job, if you should lose your job. If I can just say, and for those out there, just to give you some idea of the stats under Ange Postecoglou, that since the 5th of November 2023, which was the game where Spurs lost the lead to Chelsea and ended up, of course, losing in what has been seen really as the 11th game from that unbelievable 10 game. It's been called honeymoon period, where Tottenham were 10 games unbeaten. They won 8, they drew 2. They were top of the league at that time. Spurs, and of course, came crashing back down to earth with a home defeat to Chelsea, suffered under former boss for us, who obviously beaten us over the cross of Andy's reign, Mauricio Pochettino at the time. Spurs have lost 38 games since that game itself. Tottenham, a 57.5% loss rate, only a 30.5 win rate, 4 league wins in their last 22 games, 1 win in, I believe, our last 11 and 12. That was to Southampton. We've had 5 league wins in the last 26 games. That includes the one against Saints and the one with Ipswich. It's 28 points taken from a possible 93 available. We've had, of course, 10 home defeats, the most ever for us in a domestic Premier League season. 22 league defeats in a 38-game season, as we touched upon, the first time since the 1912-13 season. It's roughly averaging, from what I'm understanding, a points per game ratio. It might be less than this now, of just 1.06, which that in itself is the worst in our history. If we were to go off, Pat, purely stats alone, there is only one outcome. Stats alone, you take out the trophy element to it, but football is a funny game. And you know what? I was saying in this conversation actually pre-game, where many were saying to me, if you polled the match game fans going into that stadium, the flag waving, everything happening, you may feel there's like an 80-20 split that would say, maybe give Ange another chance. They then sat down and watched that 90 minutes, which again, granted, we've got to say, a lot of the players we know that have been on the piss for the last 3-4 days. Many build it as a bit of a meaningless game. Many just didn't want to care. They bought a ticket just for the party. Many said, if you polled them at full time, and I saw so many fans actually go and leave actually before the parade even took place at the end of season lap of honour. It's just a crazy situation we find ourselves in, Pat, right? Or is it so crazy? Let's come over to you.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? It's from one high extreme to such another low extreme. Like, there's no middle ground here. We've won a trophy. It's amazing. First time we've won major honours in 17 years. First piece of, European silverware in 41 years. Champions League football again. But then off the back of that, you've got 22 losses, hard losses as well. We're losing to teams that, with all due respect, that we shouldn't be losing to on a weekly basis. And we're seeing a manager that looks shot of ideas, and there's, you know, and I get today's game was a bit different, but in the context of it, it just reminded us of all the other losses and all the other, you know, things we've been through all year. So it's such a tough one because, like Ange is saying, you know, I get where he's coming from in the sense of he's just done the unthinkable, won us a major trophy and all of that stuff. But he'd be very like naive to not understand why people are asking him that question. We've lost so many games, 22, as we all know. And of course, with that will come. Most managers that lose that many games either get sacked or they get relegated. It's one or the other. They don't continue to keep their job in the Premier League. You know, if they get relegated with their team and maybe they stay in the Championship and they go again, or even then they may make a change. It's really uncommon for a manager to lose that many games and still continue to the next season. That is the reality of it. So, Ange, you know, when you're saying, "Oh, I don't understand why I'm being asked these questions," I'm sure you do understand why, because we're losing so many games. And it's not like, you know, today's game, we got blown out. And there's, you know, a lot of the games, if you look closely, Liverpool battered, today battered. A lot of it's not like close games. Before, the excuse was, when I kept saying that it's bad that we're losing, oh, we're only losing by 1 goal margin. It's only, you know, now we're getting battered in every game. So again, you know, we're not trying to be, I get what Dave is saying, and sometimes you do need to relax and stuff. But of course, the nature of the beast is football does move fast, and obviously people can only go off what's happened today. And yeah, it's true, Ricky, what you said, without going into too much detail, because I get there's a lot of people that want to say stuff. Before the actual lap of honor and trophy, a lot of people left. They'd had enough. And it feels weird, doesn't it? Because you want to celebrate and clap and, you know, really get involved in the party and everything like that. But then also you kind of feel almost like me. I kind of felt almost embarrassed to sing along and chant when I just seen us get smashed yet again. So you're really stuck in this weird middle ground. So yeah, that's what I'll probably say for now.
I will just clarify one thing. I said a lot of fans left. I must make it very, very clear. I'm referring to my block of where I was. I was East Upper at the time. At the full-time whistle, a lot of fans around me left and decided not to stay around for the parade. There was clearly a lot of fans that did stay around for the parade. And on that point, Ange wasn't handed the mic to give a post-season address, but this was the reaction, again, for balance of the show, from the Spurs fans that saw Ange Postecoglou walking round at the end of the season. Yeah, this is what the fans' reaction was to seeing Ange on the pitch. Let's hear that, and then we're going to come to Dave on this point. It's fascinating, isn't it? Look, I must have said this point. There's no reason because he wasn't given the mic. That means he's definitely going. But at the same time, you thought you might have maybe had a message from Ange on the pitch, probably because the club have ended a 17-year trophy drought. They've brought home the Europa League after what? Or a European trophy for over 40 years. Maybe you'd think Ange Postecoglou might be given the mic to address the fans, to maybe address some of the things that have happened this season. Doesn't mean that because he wasn't given the mic that, you know, he's definitely going. I will just, at the time of this show being recorded, we're hearing a lot of conflicting reports coming out from a lot of journalists that cover the club on a regular basis, not just the plug. This is from Tom Barkley of the Sun Sport that says Ange Postecoglou's future is unlikely to be clarified before the Australian heads off on holiday on Monday, with Daniel Levy understood to now be mulling over whether to stick or to twist. The expectation was that Ange Postecoglou would be sacked at the end of this season, but now the Australian Greek has won the Europa League. A U-turn can't be ruled out. Let's come to you, Dave. I tell you what, I was saying to a lot of people around me at the stadium, for everyone's benefit, Ange's benefit, the fans' benefit, the players' benefit, you would think there's got to be a decision imminently. Maybe you will get your wish, Dave. Maybe you will go on that holiday and it won't be decided as quick as what many people thought it might be. I mean, I know, Dave, it's really difficult for you, this conversation. Where are you at the moment with regards to this situation?
Well, look, the reality is I don't think we have to make this decision so quick. I think there is a week or two period where the players and managers and club staff and all that will go away on holidays for a week or two. The media will make it look like they don't. They'll start printing stories left, right and centre. But the reality is everyone goes on holiday for a week or two. So there is time to live in the moment and to be able to enjoy it. But, you played that there. And look, it's great to see that Ange Postecoglou is getting some respect. But I was looking and I can't help but feel, if that was Pochettino delivered that stadium's sold. That stadium's full the whole way around. That was half empty to a large degree. So it sort of shows that there is a massive disconnect between the fans and the manager. In years gone by, a lot of fans would have filled out that stadium, wait to see the players, clap them around and stuff like that. But look, when it comes to Postecoglou, I don't want this to be ultra, negative against him. I understand the questions around his future, right? They come around because of all the defeats. But I do think there is stuff to be grateful for Ange Postecoglou. For instance, first trophy in 17 years, first European trophy in 41 years. I think heading into the final, I think a large part of the reason why we actually got over the line is all the attention was on him. No one was speaking about the weight, putting the weight of expectancy onto this current squad, which under Pochettino, it's what everybody talked about going into finals, getting over the line, finally getting over the line, not being chokers and stuff like that. That was all taken away from the team. And I ultimately believe that is what ended up getting us over the line. The fact that, he's also protected a lot of the players this season. It's why it kept him in a job, to be able to get him into a final, to be able to deliver the Europa League. And it's clear and evident that a lot of the players respect him and that they do want to play for him. I also think in terms of us fans, I think, delivering that Europa League and bringing that parade, I think he's shown us what we could be. I think he's reminded fans how big of a club we are. I think he's reminded fans that we should have expectations and a certain standard at this club. I think he's also, batted against the narrative that Tottenham are a mockery in the media and to every other rival fan. He stood up for the club in that regard. These are all things I think other managers maybe didn't do in the past, and I think he does deserve a lot of credit for that. To a large degree, he's sort of given us our love and respect back for the football club, and ultimately he's given me one of my greatest days of my lifetime that I've been waiting 33 years for. I think there is a lot of stuff that he deserves credit for, but ultimately the fact that we're still sitting here and there's a massive debate about it after him delivering a European trophy that Spurs fans have been waiting so long to deliver, I think that's where your answer is then, isn't it? I think the fact that there's scrutiny around it, I think maybe leads to the fact that he probably isn't the right guy going into next season, because any other manager that delivers a European trophy at any other club, there's not that scrutiny. There's not even a decision to be made. He's their guy moving into next season. I think Russ hit on it. The fact that Levy hasn't exactly come out and clarified, his future, and the fact that that report there is suggesting that he's going to take time to sit back and sort of mull over it means Daniel Levy's buying time to see if there is any more prestigious names out there bigger than Ange Postecoglou that's maybe interested in the football club. But I think Daniel Levy also has to realise that's only come about because Ange Postecoglou has delivered the European trophy. I think Postecoglou is right to point out we lost Harry Kane, which almost, and that's something I've tried to highlight on this pod many times this season, the impact that that's had. I also tried to highlight, I don't think the squad is as good as people make it out to be. A lot of the narrative is that the squad is so much better than what we're showing this season. I think if we're a squad that prioritizes one competition over another, I think, yes, fine. But if we're a squad that wants to compete in all four fronts, it's not good enough in terms of quality, strength, and depth. The reality is this squad has been tested more than any other squad in my lifetime at Tottenham. And they've contributed to the 22 defeats, the 26 defeats overall this season. So I think there's a massive, overhaul that needs to happen in this squad. And the reality is, I don't think everything that's gone on this season has been Ange Postecoglou's fault. I've been on this pod many times, sort of combating the narrative, almost battling against Johnny, sometimes to a certain degree. But the reality is, he hasn't proved over 2 seasons he can compete on all 4 fronts, which leaves the question mark: is he good enough? In general, and the fact that the scrutiny's on him and he has to still come out and justify his future, I think probably means even if he goes into next season, my gut feeling is it comes to an end at some point because he's on such a short leash. So that's where I'm at. I just think maybe it's best for all parties to maybe just thank you very much, respect each other, and just sort of walk away and bring in a new guy who can maybe bring in a better caliber of player and really kick this football club on. Because the reality is, Postecoglou is a guy that's, at Celtic, he had the very best players to work with, the biggest budget and stuff like that. In order for him to get this to work at Tottenham Hotspur, he's going to need a much better caliber of player than what we've delivered him. The reality is, if our transfer strategy is to continue along this youthful sort of model, then you need a guy that's going to come in and work with these guys day in, day out on the training ground, because Postecoglou is notorious for taking a step back, letting his coach do the work. But I think with the young squad, you almost need to be that father figure, a bit like what Pochettino was to a lot of these guys, sort of guide them to where you want to get them. And I'm not sure Postecoglou is the right guy in that regard. So, look, I think maybe it's best for all parties sort of to separate ways, just because there's still this scrutiny, even though he's delivered a European trophy. So there's your answer, really.
Dave, thank you. Russ, before I bring you in, we've had a whole host. I think Russ was amongst the replies when the post went out on our social media after the game of what were your thoughts and send us your questions. And by the time Russ tries to finish that post, he has to then scroll back down again. And then I think by then, even Russ is like me saying, God, there's a lot to discuss on this show. Let me read some of these out, Russ, to you to come back on, and you tell me where we're at. So the only way man says, can we keep Ange as the European manager? And can we employ someone else as the Premier League manager? Chris Coleman, I'm assuming it's not Chris Coleman, the manager, says, rank the 4-1 losses in the club's history from best to worst. THFC 1882 says, should he be given another season? Worst season in the Premier League in terms of losses, but wins a trophy. I want to believe, but I worry he gets Spurs in a relegation battle next season. DPG says, at any point keeping Ange for next season, he'll be sacked by Christmas. There's, again, a lot of points around the fact of the narrative that people, I just think, there's, again, no third series, please, from Gerard Williams. Jose says, I think he'll be gone. And the one of the comments, I think, from Marcus being made here is that the club need to make a non-emotional, non-sentimental decision and do it in the best interest of the football club. In your mind, Russ, you've already told us what you feel that is the case. What do you see is going to likely be happening here? And on that point, I must just say, there's been, again, reports, but again, this is from Ross Barkley that is bringing this to us as this show is being recorded, that you won't be surprised to know Fabio Paratici, who is expected to be reappointed on the club's board in the coming days, is expected to have a say on who replaces Ange Postecoglou if he is sacked. Russ, how do you see it playing out?
Well, he teased us with season 3. Season 3 of Succession was pretty good, and season 3 of The Sopranos was really good. Is there going to be a season 3 of Ange? It's not up to me. It's not up to anyone watching, anyone listening, or you, Ricky, or you, Patrick, or you, Dave. It's down to one man, Daniel Levy. But if he's watching, he will be under no illusions after you put those stats up that, there is a major problem with the football club. I mean, just to go back to the press conference before I give you a few things that I think might shape the decision, he described it as unprecedented. Well, I'm sorry, Ange. This football club has won an awful lot of trophies over the years. It's not unprecedented for a start. And then he said, we've got to connect, we're so big and massive, this football club. Come on, everyone who supported Tottenham for a long while. You know we're a massive football club. How does he only just work that one out? And then he said, I took the decision, we heard him, saying that it was everything in on the Europa League. Well, I'm saying to you, watching and listening and fellow panel members and Ricky, that no big club takes that decision. Because they fight. And he would say, we're going the youth way. He's had £400 million worth of money given to him by Daniel Levy and the board, and brought in, James Maddison, Dominic Solanke, Mickey van der Ven, experienced players. Now, the issue for me is, apart from the stats, that are absolutely damning, as you and Pat were saying, it's all the other stuff. At the beginning, he was adorable, but now, as a coach, he's pretty deplorable, I'm afraid. You know, I mean, it's 22 Premier League defeats. We keep going on about this stat, but it's the tactics, the injuries, some of them unlucky, a lot of them sustained in training. What's been going on in the training sessions? Why have we as a football club had so many injuries? Then we were told, when they're all back, we're going to start doing a lot better. Well, they didn't. They were playing in the Premier League and we didn't do a lot better. Maybe they've been told not to try so hard because he was only interested in the Europa League. This is where this confusion, and it doesn't quite add up to me. The results have been overall terrible. And this is all under the umbrella of what I said at the start of the show, how brilliant it is to win a trophy, and we must thank him, and he's done a great job doing that. So this is not a get Ange session, but you cannot cup your ear to the fans at an away game because you happen not to like what the fans who pay good money are saying about our football club. You can't call out the fans in a press conference. I'm amazed there was that many people singing his song at the end of the game. People are fickle. We all are fickle and we forget. I'm just reminding people, you cannot have moody, surly, spiky press conferences because some journalists ask you a question as a manager of a Big Six club, questions that you don't happen to like based on what they've just seen and how your football team has performed once again very, very badly. Weird substitutions, or, you know, the list goes on and on and on. But ultimately, you know, it's like Dave has said and Patrick has said, and I think you probably hold this view as well, you know, to try and compete in two competitions was tricky enough for him in season number one. We ended up fifth, and he took great delight, and quite rightly so, in telling us that we've got European football. But this season, with the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and he said, you know, we had a great run in that. We did to the semi-final. We had a really good result at home. But then at Anfield, we were just blown away because they're far better than us. And we all knew it was going to happen. It makes the Europa League success, in my opinion, even more remarkable. You know, I don't want to say lucky because you ride your luck in football, but some people might think it's lucky. We're going to play in the Champions League next season. This squad needs a major overhaul. Once again, it's the same old Tottenham story. And the teams we're going to be playing are not of the standard of the teams that we played in the Europa League. So, you know, he's going to have to up his game again. He's going to have to fight on four fronts. And I think that it all comes down to Daniel Levy and the board and the decision makers at the club. And I think if Daniel Levy is thinking, well, I'm going to have to spend 250 million on players because we're in the Champions League, which incidentally makes Tottenham for potential buyers very, very attractive. And also for potential managers coming in, London, great stadium, massive fan base. They all watch social media, and incidentally, well done to the Spurs media team. They've been absolutely brilliant over this whole Europa League thing. Sensational. And we've knocked him a few times on this show, but credit where it's due. And Daniel Levy is going to be thinking, because he's Daniel Levy, okay, I'm going to spend 250 million. Am I going to cross my fingers, given what we've looked at mostly with Ange Postecoglou for 2 seasons, and hope it's okay? Or am I going to spend that money with a manager that I think is better equipped to represent us on the pitch and off the pitch? And I think that's it. That is literally what it's going to come down to. And, you know, second guessing him is very difficult, but he is quite ruthless. And that's why he's successful, Mr. Levy. And if I was going to call it, I would say that he will shake Ange's hand and say goodbye. I could be wrong. It's just a gut feeling. As I also said at the start of the show, whoever is in charge of our football team come the start of the season, whether it's Ange or somebody else, we all give them total support. And if it's Ange, we go again. But he won't have many games to get results and a string of results going before. And Dave mentioned it. I thought he mentioned it really well and explained it. You don't get long, Rick. There's too much at stake. And football is about winning. And losing 22 times, 10 times at home in the Premier League is just not good enough. And so To me personally, if I was Daniel Levy, I would say, Ange, thank you. Based on, forget the Europa League, you know, where the real action happens in the Premier League. For me, your position is untenable, and we're moving on with someone else.
Just on the point, Pat, to come over to you, do you think, because again, I was actually asked this question, you know, in the stadium earlier, that is the big problem at the moment that there's no obvious managerial candidate? Look, we do know that what's been mentioned is the likes of Iriola, Glasner, of course. There's been links to Xavi, you know, Marco Silva. I must say instantly on Marco Silva, what we're being told is that he has told Fulham he will be staying at the football club. He was apparently fondly admired by Tottenham. The other name also been linked to the club has been Thomas Frank as well. Pat, is that a big thing that may be saving Ange? The fact that there is no, dare I say, this might not be someone that people might or might not want Pochettino on that shortlist, because we know he's contracted with America to the next World Cup, which will make it very hard to get him out of that contract. Is that a big factor in this as well, that there's no obvious managerial candidate that makes this a big topic of discussion?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why maybe it's not as clear cut as some would like it to be, either one way or the other. But then I also think if we are a big club, sometimes you need to ruffle some feathers and knock on some doors, and you understand that just like when you go and after a player, there's a transfer fee, you buy a manager out and you bring them in. If you really believe that you're a big club and you want to act like that, you let the manager know your thoughts, your feelings, what your intentions are, and you go and basically get the man that you want. But most of the top managers are in or managing clubs at the moment. It's really unlikely that you get a manager who's just chilling and just waiting for his next call up. It does happen, I know, but then usually they're not ready to manage at the moment, like a Jurgen Klopp. They're chilling and just taking some time out. But realistically, I agree with what Russ was saying, and it's what I thought as well. If we win the Europa League, which we now have done, and we're back in the Champions League, we're probably in the best position we've been in such a long time. We've just come off the back of a major European, trophy, silverware. The whole world knows we've won this trophy. We're back in the Champions League. We're a club that should have money to spend anyway, and you've also got the Champions League pot. Now is the most ideal time you have to go and really entice a manager and entice players and really get them to buy into the project and go all out to build up. Daniel Levy's come out and said he wants to build off of this. We've tasted success and he wants this to be something that we continue to do. Big clubs act like big clubs, and we've seen big clubs win trophies and still get rid of the manager because they know it wasn't good enough. Chelsea have done it a number of times. Bayern Munich do it. Real Madrid do it. If you're looking at the elite clubs, the reason why these guys continue to win things is because they're standards and they don't slip and wave on that. And when you're losing 22 times in a season, those standards are in the mud and you have to really adjust that. Because for me, I fear if we go into another season like this, for me, I just feel that we're going to waste the summer. I don't trust his recruitment. I don't trust the way he sets up. I don't trust his tactics. There's a lot I don't like about this manager. There's so many red flags. And then you go into another season, you've wasted the summer, you've wasted your transfer spend. He has a couple of bad games, like Dave is saying, 10 games, 6 games, 7 games, we get rid of him. We're back to square one. You're then scrambling to get a manager in who's then, one of the only managers that are available. He then has to assess the squad, make his decisions. You've literally wasted a whole year. And that just makes no sense. From where we're at right now, we're in such a good position if we really want to be a serious club. Daniel Levy has to be ruthless. And for me, I think there's only one way. It's fantastic what he's done. I think it's amazing. He's brought me one of the best days of my life as a football fan and just as a person, in terms of seeing what, I live in Tottenham. I'm from Tottenham. I grew up here. I went to school in Wellbourne, which is in Tottenham, near Tottenham Hale for the people that are local. My secondary school is St. Thomas Smallwood Green. And I saw so many people that are not massive football fans, but they were out for the day, enjoying, they're now Tottenham fans, they're adopted. They've bought into the whole atmosphere, the whole hysteria, seeing a club win things. As you know, when clubs are successful, people want to piggyback off of that and you pick up more fans. So now's the time to really build off of that. And I don't trust, as much as a person, I like Ange Postecoglou. I do. I like his aura. I like his confidence. I like that he backs himself. But I don't really think he's good enough, if I'm being honest. And when you're in the Champions League, you're in, trying to navigate in there, because we cannot finish in the bottom half of the Premier League next season. There's going to be no more excuses. We rolled the dice massively, and it was a huge gamble, and it paid off. Next year, there has to be at least a top 6, top 8, ideally a top 4 finish. You need to go do well in the Champions League and not be embarrassed. And then there's obviously the other two. I just don't trust this guy. I don't think he's good enough to navigate on all 4 fronts and actually build off of what we started. So for me, I think it's time to, and he's got good credit in the bank now. He can go somewhere else and get a job, maybe with less expectations. I don't know what his future, but I just think it'd be a big mistake if we were to stick with Ange, personally.
Dave, who's under more pressure? I'm intrigued to get your opinion on this. Is Ange under more pressure to deliver in season 3 now that he's won a trophy? Or is, if Tottenham make the change, that manager coming in under more pressure than Ange would have been in season 3 because we've just sacked a manager that has ended Tottenham's 17-year trophy drought and delivered a European trophy to the club in over 40 years?
I think it depends on the caliber of manager that you bring in, to be quite frank. I think a lot of the names that have been presented to date have been very underwhelming. I think it's more of a sidestep, or even to a degree, a step backwards. Many people berate Postecoglou and berate what he's done at Celtic in Japan and sort of almost diminish it. But he's got a better CV than half the names that have been linked to the football club. And that's just the reality of it. I mean, some of the names that have been banded about or fans have been calling for, I wonder how much of it was actually out of desperation, rather than, actually thinking about it clearly, saying, if we're going to get rid of this guy, it's got to be for a name that's bigger and better. And I think that's where the pressure comes in. I think, if we get a manager that's been at big clubs and knows how to handle the situation. I mean, you look at Arne Slot, for instance, the way he's walked in and handled it at Liverpool to a large degree. He was earning his plaudits before that, the way his style of football, the manager, the man management style, and the fact that he was punching above his weight. But he walked into Liverpool and he had a massive job on his hands, especially what Jurgen Klopp delivered there. You're talking about Premier League titles, European trophies, but he's walked in there seamlessly and he's sort of gone on, to sort of just carry that on. But the reality is he has an amazing squad, and this is where I keep harping back to Tottenham. You've got to give a manager the right squad to build. I think if you give any manager the right squad, I think we'll have a chance going into next season. But the big problem is at Tottenham, we end up sort of, a lot of the top managers will end up being off our radar because a lot of them just don't want to have to fight for getting the right quality players in here and stuff like that. Many of them see it as like, well, if you want success and I want success, surely that's just natural that you deliver that, rather than having to go in and fight for it with the recruitment team every day of the week and fight with Daniel Levy and stuff like that. So that takes us off the radar for a lot of managers, which means you are looking at a manager that either wants to roll his sleeve up and come in here and work, or a manager that's here for a payday. And to be honest with you, look, there is a part of me that I wouldn't mind seeing Ange go into next season, us back him. And, I like the underdog story. I want him to go and prove again everybody wrong. But the reality is there's just too many question marks after delivering a European trophy that tells me next season there'll be a trouble on the horizon. I just think if we bring in the right manager, he can take this forward. I think if we take a sidestep or bring in like an Iraola or a Thomas Frank or stuff like that, you're going to go backwards. And that's where I think the club then will become under a lot of pressure. So for me, it's all about the right guy. But today, I haven't really seen a caliber of name that goes, sack him. The only one that I sort of maybe look at, and, again, I've sort of changed my opinion on this as the season has gone on. Originally, I was against it. Is Ollie Glasner. But is he really going to walk away from Palace after getting them to European football? I think it's more or less being confirmed there by, the chairman after the FA Cup final, that there's been a mutual decision that they're going to go into next season. So that probably takes him off the table. So look, I think it's a case. I think the reason why Daniel Levy's undecided, I think he's going to wait to see if there's any big names or any managerial changes now the seasons are over, and see what presents itself in the next coming weeks while Andrew's on holiday. And if there's no big names there, then I think marriage of convenience again going into next season.
Rick, Conte's available. He's going to leave Napoli. He accused Tottenham. They don't know how to win. Well, we do now. So Daniel can get back on the phone. Just a joke.
Russ, what do you make of Daniel's part of his chairman's statement there? The fact that we've now tasted success and we want this to be the springboard to it. The reality is that actions are going to be actions are bigger than words, right? That's the reality of what we're in. Can you see that changing? I mean, he's being booed on the screen. We displayed it in this show. The minute the camera panned to him, can you actually see Daniel Levy really changing his ways for Ange or somebody else when it comes to the backing? Because to be fair to Ange, like he said in that press conference, he wants to keep Christian Romero if he's here. He understands how important he is. He's urged the club that they need to address that situation. He's urged the club that the club needs, the team needs more experience. So what you can't accuse Ange of, he isn't saying anything that we don't know already as fans, that we all see this. We know the team needs experience. We know that if you want to keep Romero, you've got to make him feel that you should want to be here. This team knows how to win. It's a case of bringing in more winners now. Can you see Daniel Levy changing his ways for, if it's not this manager, another manager? History tells you he doesn't, but what do you think?
Well, I think you've got a point that history says that he won't change. But if he means it, it means that he's reconciled in his head that he's got to start paying proper wages to get proper players who want to play in the Champions League, because that's what it's actually all about with Spurs. It's not about the 60 million quid for James Maddison or something. It's, will they accept the wages, which are going to be lower than other big clubs? I think that is a really important point. And I think reading between the lines, could have got this completely wrong, but there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, about selling a stake of the club, maybe even selling the club. It's a sort of language after the exposure that Tottenham have had across the world after this brilliant Europa League win, that kind of reinforces an image to somebody who might be interested, they might be talking to, that, okay, they understand that they're a big club, but, oh, if I do this, I can get the price up a bit. I think there is a little bit of the economics of it all, apart from the football side. And that's economics on the football side, but away from it when they're looking at Tottenham Hotspur as a going concern. Because I think there's only so long that you can take, well, not being booed, but being abused. And he gets an awful lot of abuse. Booing is, it's a bit pantomime villain, isn't it? I mean, his legacy will be the stadium. We all know that. And we all love the stadium, or 99.9% of us do. It's the annoying thing with ENIC and with Daniel is he almost gets over the line, and then you get a 2019 where he wouldn't quite do what he should have done, if you understand what I mean. And this could be one of those moments where he might do that again, or he might actually go, no, I did mess up in 2019. Right. This is how with Paratici, we've spoken about it, the rest of the board, this is how we want to go ahead. So, I'm sorry to be slightly vague, but I hope it made sense that I think there are other factors outside of the actual playing side with how the board want our club to be perceived in what they're doing and how their image is. And it could be very useful to them. And a lot of people who support our club would be very happy if ENIC went.
Yeah. Listen, we do need to go for our final break of this show. I'm conscious that, look, it has been, as I've said, a really, really testing season. It has ended with a trophy, which we're all so delighted for and happy for. And I spent a lot of the last 40 hours with Pat, and we had an amazing time. Pat partied one more night than I did. And I've got to now go into the bank holiday and save what's left of my marriage. It's going to be an interesting. Listen, that might be the best comparison at the moment. Who is going to? Is there more chance of Ange keeping his job than me saving my marriage? It's going to be interesting next 24 hours for both of those topics, I tell you, because it's been very challenging. And you know what? I will just say, for people that listen and watch this show, they've had it all this season, the emotions, the highs, the lows. And I was saying that, we've not had a chance on this show to have much laughter, fun, joy. It's been a lot of serious debates. And I was actually saying beforehand how much I'm going to go and enjoy going into the summer. Some really fun-filled shows, but it just feels, I know for some out there, that I hope not. I really hope the bubble hasn't completely burst on that game against Brighton, because as I mentioned at the start of the show, a lot of the players have been on the piss for the last 2, 3, 4 days. I know, look, you can, a 4-1 home defeat isn't great. It will get people down. I thought Russ was leaving us there for a second. He thought he was walking out on us. I wouldn't blame him if he was. But on this point, Pat, just very quickly, it's crazy emotions, right, we're having to kind of experience. We are going to go to this break in a second. It's a lot to take in, Pat, very quick, isn't it, before we go for this break?
Yes, so much to take in. I think, like I said, it's just massive extremities, and this is probably unprecedented. I don't think you ever see a club finishing 17th from 38 points below the 40-point mark barrier, lose 22 games. In other seasons, possibly could have got relegated, but then at the same time, not win a Carabao or FA Cup. They win a Europa League Cup, which then means they got Champions League football. It's insane. Like, when you look at that table and you see how far down Tottenham are, and the fact that we're in the Champions League with Chelsea, Man City, and Newcastle, it blows your mind. It's crazy. Aston Villa, Forest, and Brighton all miss out, and we're playing there, and we deserve it. I mean, we won a trophy. So we won. It is a tough competition. Competitions are never easy. Yes, you get a stroke of luck. Maybe you might luck out and catch a team at the right time. Blah blah blah. We played Bodo Glimt, who are a really good team, very good at home. Kept a clean sheet. Frankfurt, a quality team, definitely of a Champions League ilk, have won the Europa League. We beat them and again kept a clean sheet at home. And Man United are a prestigious team. They have a big brand and a big name. Yes, they're not the same Manchester United of old, but they are a team that have literally just won 2 trophies the last year. So it wasn't a gimme, not at all, and we did it. But it's just because of the circumstances and how we navigated it, it's leading to these questions. So when Ange is saying, "Oh, I'm not sure why I'm being asked this," I think he's being very disingenuous, because I think he's an intelligent guy, so he will know the reason why the questions keep popping up. But this is the nature of the beast. I believe with everything Irish Hotspur said, and I'm kind of guilty of that as well. I think we do need to take a step back and just enjoy this moment, savor it. We never know. We hope it will come again, but you never know. So you do really have to enjoy it. And like I said, the scenes at the parade, it felt like a carnival. Yeah, people tuning in from all over the world, people messaging me left, right, and centre saying, "I wish I was there," and it looked amazing. So I think we do need to enjoy that moment. But I did say as well earlier, and I kind of felt guilty partying and celebrating afterwards, knowing that we lost 22 games and just been smashed 4-1 at home. So it's such a weird feeling. I almost felt a bit embarrassed to party and celebrate, but also at the same time, you just won a trophy, the season's over. So there's a lot to be happy about, but we are in really testing times where it's such a sliding doors moment, and I just hope these guys get it right this time.
Dave, it's mad, isn't it? This show, this club, what we're going through. We have to go for this next break quickly. Dave, summarise what are we talking about here? We've won a European trophy, and it's non-stop debates. I mean, I've never heard anything like this. Even the people around me, we're all laughing at the stadium. There's people around me that are laughing. They're thinking, is there any other club like this? When you're having these kind of debates, we've won a European trophy. 40 plus years he's taken to win one. 17-year trophy drought we've ended, and here we are. The manager doesn't know he's going to be at the football club. The club at the moment, not sure what they're going to do. Tottenham, honestly, Tottenham.
But you know what? This basket case of a club brings so much stress. It almost makes winning feel so much more better than any other club in the way they get to enjoy it, because of all the pain we almost have to suffer. Ever since I've started this YouTube malarkey, I've always said, we will go through all this pain, but it will be for a greater good at the end. We will have our day, and we've had it. And look, that sums up Tottenham Hotspur. To be honest, I wouldn't change it. Look, I know this season has been stressful, but I almost sort of wear it as a badge of honour. The fact that we finished 17th and we've shithoused ourselves to a trophy and Champions League football next season. We've had a better season than Arsenal. We deliver more European trophies to North London than what Arsenal do. And they claim to be a bigger club. They claim to have a better season. Yet, at the end of the day, when they had Pochettino, or when we had Pochettino and we didn't win anything, they said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now look how much they flip-flop behind Arteta. It's a process. It's this, it's that, and everything else. At the end of the day, look, we want trophies at Tottenham. We've got it. Let's go and enjoy it for the next week. Live in the moment. At the end of the day, the reality is, look, since Wednesday, I haven't really had a time to enjoy it. I've enjoyed it with everybody online. My phone hasn't stopped at the parade. So much love and adulation, for what we do and stuff like that. And it's great. But I need a week to go and celebrate with my dad. That's one person I haven't really had a chance to really settle in with. And at the end of the day, he's the one that gave me this football club. And I want to just take a step back a week.
I'll stop applauding now, Dave, after that. But I had a feeling my dad gave this to me as well. I don't remember exactly. Him or cry.
And the thing is, when he gave me this football club, he spoke about great European nights. He spoke about Graham Roberts, captaining Tottenham to win in the UEFA Cup. And that's what I wanted. When he gave me this club, these were the nights I chased after. This is what I wanted. I finally got it. And I'm sorry, I get all the debate around this football club. but no one is going to stop me celebrating with my dad next week. And then I'll come back down to reality. The reality is, at the parade, many people said, Dave, what do you do with Ange? And I'm sort of caught up in the emotions. So surely we got to keep him. Then today brought me back down to reality. The reality is, I don't even know where I am right now, Ricky. The emotions of it all, from high to low. Yeah. I just need a week away. I just need to decompress, enjoy it, take it all in, rewatch the final, rewatch the parade and everything else. Enjoy it. Love this football club, because I berate it enough times with how unhappy I can be with it at times. I want to love it now, massage it, and then I'll come back in a few weeks and, come back down to reality and tell people honestly where I am. But right now, the emotions of it all is just crazy. I need a week, man. I need to go and wrap my arm around the old lad and say, let's party.
Listen, Dave, very nice words there. Many would agree. Look, we have got to squeeze in our final break of the show. We're really putting Russ here. Listen, we've got a nice 3-month break lined up for Russ on a boat somewhere. And after that, Russ is going to come back and we're all going to go. Unfortunately, I can't go on a boat. I wish I could go on a boat and be left somewhere for 3 months and come back to what's to come. But God knows what it would be like these next 3 months. Pat and me both wish we could be on a boat for 3 months, I tell you. Dave's getting a little break. Russ is getting a little break away. We're going to hear very quickly in these next 3 minutes from Archie Gray, Matisse Tell, Kevin Danzo, and we'll be back to close the show with you. And Destiny Doggy. It's a big break. Let's hear from them all very quickly. We'll be back after this.
Destiny, thank you for joining us. I think firstly, we're so impressed that you managed to get through today after what's been a very busy week.
Yeah, definitely. It was a busy couple of days, but obviously we have to play, so yeah.
Tell me about the moment that the final whistle goes. Following that, how has this experience been for you?
No, it's been amazing. Obviously, winning the Europa League is a big achievement, so it's a dream for me. So everything was amazing. We didn't win today as we wanted, but it's okay. We enjoyed the moment.
Can you tell me a little bit about when you came into training the other day? Everyone had to come in for training. They'd been partying a little bit. But I wondered if you had that moment together when you got in that you were like, wow, look at what we've just done.
Yeah, definitely. The day we came back to London, it was amazing because we realized we did something big. So honestly, it was amazing. Everything was amazing.
And then walking out today, every fan in here had a flag, waving it as you walk out onto that pitch. What's that like as a player?
Honestly, I had some chills because seeing all the white flags, the fans, everyone happy, it was beautiful. So sometimes you have to just live the moment and enjoy.
Bit of holiday now?
A bit of holiday and national team, but yeah, I'm gonna enjoy.
And then the Super Cup?
I can't wait. Let's bring another trophy home, so let's do our best.
Love it. Congrats, Destiny. Just describe what this last week has been like for you.
Was incredible, and the story was crazy for the club, for the fans, for everybody else, and yeah, I'm very happy about it. We did it, and yeah, we deserve it.
For you, having just joined the club in January, could you have imagined how special this was going to be?
To be honest, I'm playing football, so I'm playing to win trophies. So yeah, I believe on this team, on this club, and yeah. That's why we did it, and I'm very happy.
Just finally, Matty, the manager has spoken so much about family.
Yeah.
How fond are you of your new family here?
Yeah, Tottenham is a big family with the fans, with everybody else. What I said, yeah, Tottenham is not just a club. It's everything for us. So yeah, we have to keep going and win again trophies.
Congratulations, Matty. Kevin, try and sum up to me what this last week has been like for you.
Amazing, really. I mean, we won a trophy after so long. It's been a dream, honestly. Best feeling, it's unmatched, and hopefully many more to come.
You said to us last week that you were ready if you were going to be called upon, and once again the manager trusted you at a key time and you came on and played such a crucial part.
Yeah, like I said before, I knew what was at stake. I knew whatever role I play, I would give 100%, and as long as I do that, we'll be okay. And luckily, he kept the clean sheet, kept them from scoring, and we won the trophy.
I feel like you've become a part of the furniture so quickly. You've become such a crucial part of this group. How have you managed to do that so fast?
I mean, it's been made super easy for me. The club, everybody at the club, the staff, everyone around the club just made it super easy. And, you know, all I have to do is worry about playing football, doing it to the best of my ability. And that's what I try to do every day. And look, we won a trophy. It's an amazing feeling. And like I said, hopefully many more to come. It doesn't stop there.
And just finally, Kevin, a message for the fans who were out in Bilbao, were on the trophy parade, and then have been soaking it up today as well.
Come on, you Spurs!
There you go, Kevin Danso. Do you know what? What a guy! He's come in. He's given it his all. Just fascinating stuff. Look, spoiler alert. We're not going to take you through Brighton. We're not going to really take you through Brighton. I think we've all gone through enough this season. I'm not going to put everyone through a. Look at Russ pray. Russ pray to the gods there. What I do have to do very quickly is I am just going to quickly address the goals in that game. I'm not going to go for we're sick of opinions on this season. Let me just quickly, if I can, just like I say, take you through those goals of the game. I mean, quite interestingly on this point, Russ. One thing I do want to ask you, Russ, because one of your big fans, I've got to say that I was at the stadium today. Let me get his name, just to make sure I get his name right on this. He was Mark Martin. Wanted me to ask you, Russ, on the lineup, in your opinion, which we know Spurs, it was quite a strong side that Ange went with for the game. Obviously, Tottenham's team that lined up was Vicario, Porro, Danso, Van der Ven, Doggy, Bentancur, Gray, Sarr, Johnson, Solanke, Tell, bench of Kinski, Spence, Davis, Basuma, Olasise, Ajayi, Moore, Odebear, Richarlison. Many wanted me to ask, Mark wanted me to ask you, do you think the feeling would be different about maybe feelings on the game, Russ, if he just played out maybe a youthful kind of lineup rather than going really strong and losing 4-1, Russ? Would that have maybe changed any of the discussion we've had during this show about the manager, about the players? I mean, you could say a lot of players should take responsibility for this because, again, they have been partying. They've been on the piss since Wednesday night.
Yes, and for the first 20 minutes, I thought, why don't they go out and party a bit more? Because they were absolutely brilliant the first 20 minutes, and then it kind of slipped away, and what happened. I mean, he could have gone the youth route a little bit more. You just don't know where the manager is in his mind. We saw him earlier, and he didn't seem, even though he can't quite believe it, he didn't seem to really be in a clear place what's going to happen. So I think he just went with tried and tested, mostly who was available to play, and did it that way. That would be my answer for Mark. Would it have made a difference? Probably not, but with the youngsters, with a bit more energy and not quite so much beer in them, they might run around a bit more second half, and maybe we wouldn't have conceded 4.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, we're going to move on very quickly. Obviously, Solanke did put Spurs 1 up from the spot. Obviously, we saw at the time Wilson Odebear taken down, but look, Spurs went into half-time 1-0, and then after that really simply unravelled. It was actually a good first half from Tom, as Pat said, played quite well. Second half, it just seemed fatigue set in. We could never recover. And from there, Brighton did take control. Obviously, 1-1, 2 goals from a set piece, or Brighton do go ahead and lead 2-1. No doubt about it. Basuma, who was one of Spurs' stars of the shows, of course, out in Bilbao for their European trophy win, conceding a penalty, very, very sloppy tackle for Basuma to give away that pen, converted by Brighton for 3-1, and then an absolute worldie for the fourth, which flew in, and then suddenly looking at a 4-1 scoreline, which I know for many, I don't say for many, I think for some out there has put a little bit of a dampener on the week. Don't let it. I mean, I think what Dave said there, some of his words are so important. Go and spend this next week still spending it with family, reminiscing on Spurs ending their 17-year wait for a trophy. And quite simply, I think it's important to say, eliminating those demons out. A lot of people have been laughing at us, joking us for this club never win a trophy. I think an important point to come on to and finish on this, Pat, is that, a lot of this season, we've had to sit here, discuss, dissect, take through, be therapists for a lot of these games that have not gone in our favour. But the last few days, Pat, apart from today, it's been a really whirlwind of emotions, right? And so much love out there from the Spurs community that I know we've received personally as well.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and I agree with pretty much what most people are saying. Like, just put this result aside and look at the bigger picture. The fact that we are, trophy winners. We're back in the Champions League, which is, for me, I feel, a place where Tottenham deserve to be at. No one has a divine right to win trophies or play Champions League football. You have to do it on merit, and the fact that we've won a Europa League means that we are merited a Champions League spot. So enjoy it. And enjoy the fact that you've seen your club up close and personal win trophies, have a parade, 225,000 people in one place. You know, every news outlet around the world tuned in. You know, it was crazy. It's amazing. And yeah, enjoy it, man. Until next season, until next year, we are the European, you know, cup holders. And yeah, cherish it. Enjoy
Yeah.
it. You may never see it again, you know, like as much
Yeah.
as we don't want to say that, it's true. Like it might take another 20, 30. Like what we've done is huge, and everything has to align for you to win a trophy. The fact that we've done it with this group of players, hopefully it will propel them and push them on. I just hope and pray that the club make the right decisions. If Ange is to stay, they back him fully, really trust in his vision and get it right so there's no excuses. And if he's not to stay, then really get the right man in and back him again, because we do have something to really build off of. I
Yep.
don't want it to be another mistake and 3 or 4 years down the line we're looking at what ifs. And last but not least, I'm so happy for Son. So happy for him. The guy, like I said in my tweet on Twitter, on X earlier today, for me, the biggest legend in my eyes that I've ever seen. The fact that he stayed with us, stayed true when he had, you know, the whole world looking at him, signed a new contract when Nuno was the manager, wasn't sure what direction Spurs were going in. This guy put pen to paper. Saudi Arabia, when they were coming in, sniffing around him last year, he put that to bed straight away and said he's staying at Tottenham because he has unfinished business. And now you've just seen that unfinished business. Him lifting that trophy, walking around today with that trophy. And it's like the guy deserves it. The whole world is happy that Son won a trophy, which ultimately means the whole world is happy that Tottenham have won a trophy. So make it that what you will, man. But enjoy it. I'm so pleased for Sonny, so pleased for all of us as well. We as fans have been through so much, ridiculed, bantered, taking the piss out of Tottenham are not a big six club. Every year they're trying to take us out, put Newcastle in, put this, you know, we've won a major trophy now. We're back in there. The trophy count alone says we're a big club. You know, the fact that you can even all summer, you can go along around to people and say, the fact is big clubs, you know, they win trophies. Even in our shittest era, which it is now, 17th in the league, we still win trophies. That's mental. You can now use that line. It's crazy.
Russ, Pat, thank you so much. Russ, let's let you have the final
Roger.
word on
Oh, God.
Spurs.
Yeah.
Tell us your emotions.
Look, I just want us to win more trophies, you know, and Pat and Dave and everyone is of the opinion that we got a base to build on. We need a chairman now who doesn't do a 2019 and they're not empty words. And Daniel, get that checkbook out. There he is. So that's what we need. And, you know, fingers crossed that it will happen. Whoever's the manager at the start of next season, they'll have my full support and we'll start from a clean sheet. I suspect it won't be Ange, but it may be. And if it is, we've just got to ride the crazy train again. And hopefully, if it is Ange, he's learned an awful lot about not only what's required at this massive football club, to use his own words, but also what he has got to actually improve on, because there are quite a few things, and he might not agree with me on that, but I think it's plain to see that he's not perhaps as good as sometimes he likes to think he is. So if he stays, you know, he gets all the support, but big decisions coming up. One very small thing away from the game and winning the trophy, which was brilliant. And one of our regular viewers, and he loves the podcast, Sigsy, he lost his wife in the week of the Europa League final and our ultimate victory. He's a massive Spurs fan. And on behalf of us, I reached out to him. It was a very difficult day, one day for him. And he's been in touch, loves the podcast, and he's over the moon that he's got something to smile about again. Not only watching this, but obviously that we won the Europa League. So it underlines, you know, football's important, but family and friends and the love you have for them is a bit more.
Russ, thank you, mate. Very kind words. And we send our condolences, thoughts and prayers to him at this very, very sad time. Listen, what a season. I want to say again a massive thank you to, firstly, the loyal audience, the viewers, the listeners that tune in relentlessly to Last Word on Spurs. What we're 7-8 years in. I'm definitely getting grayer and older, but we did get a trophy. And I want to say a massive thanks to all those wonderful people who do make the show possible. Because look, we can all turn up, but without the audience out there that do give us such love for this show, it isn't possible. So we thank you. I thank our regular panelists that come on this show. Russ, who's become a main part of this show now over the last few years. Pat, bless him as well, who's really got a lot of love out there. And so David, the Irish Hotspur Dave as well. You know, it's truly, truly special to have built so many long-lasting friendships from this show. And many saw that, you know, even at the parade, I had the pleasure of being with Pat, with TJ, Christina, bless her heart. Am I missing anyone, Pat? Jason, of course, was with us. It was amazing.
Yeah, Jason,
so many people. So, listen, thank you so much for making this show what it is. And I do appreciate that. Again, you know, in the life of Tottenham, there's another discussion to be had. That is what we deal with. So I want to say, look, again, loads of comments we've had in, loads of viewer comments that we've had in here. Bit of a mixture again. Jason Wells says here, anyone thinks Ange should stay? I have some magic beans to sell you. Bill says here, thanks for the cup, Ange, but league results worst ever. Squad needs an upgrade. Leave your bone back, Ange, but we need, like we saw with Birkinshaw, needs to be backed. We've got Sam who says, thank Dave, bang on from another great episode from the Irish Hotspur. Had a great game, great time with Dave, regardless of the result. Regroup again next year. Who knows? Nobody can give us any kind of a question. Ilmatter says Ricky's wife is really the hero putting up with all this. So I do agree with you, honestly. I'm very, very lucky. Very, very lucky. It's been like I say, very, very challenging season, but I have to go off and save my marriage now, which again, given this last week or so and what's to come at this football club, it feels like it's going to be a very, 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 very busy summer. Russ, thank you so much. Go and enjoy a 3-month break. You're a Tottenham fan, Russ. Let's unmute you very quickly. You can get yourself out of here.
I can. Thanks for having me. Happy summer, everyone. See you in the new season.
He's going to look like a new man in 3 months. He really is. One man who isn't going anywhere, unfortunately, he might feel unfortunate for him, is Patrick Tyrant. Pat, thank you so much, mate, for helping us through what's been a very difficult season. The most challenging one, right? Even though we've had an amazing trophy.
It's been a pleasure, and it's been such a topsy-turvy season. I mean, I don't ever recall Tottenham finishing 17th, but then, as we know, Tottenham haven't won a trophy in so long, so you take the rough with the smooth. It's been brilliant, been fantastic interacting with everyone on the pods, in the comments, on Twitter, in person, and hopefully we go again next year with a bigger and better and shinier squad.
Yeah. Amen. Honestly, Pat, I think, many would say it's been a real team effort this season. It has, it's been a real bond. And Dave, thank you, mate, because I know again, you are someone that offers a very good perspective in terms of where things are. You're not one that rationally jumps from decision to decision. But I think, like you said, like a lot of people out there, they just need a breakaway and a chance to really celebrate winning the Europa League. It's been that crazy week. We won it on Wednesday. We're back here on Sunday. We've not had a chance to really even go away and reflect on maybe what this week has done, right? It's been mad, crazy.
No, 100%. It's been absolutely crazy. This season, usually I was known for, my youthful looks despite my age. This season I was growing grey hairs. I really need time away just to sort of, because I think everyone's aging, with this season and the way it's gone on. But look, I want to say a massive thank you to you guys. You know how much I respect this pod, Ricky, and how much, it's always been a dream of mine to come on here and do one episode, let alone be invited back for multiple. So I really appreciate it. I fully understand what I am. I'm maybe not as most polished as a lot of the guests on here, but I really appreciate the last one on Spurs audience for giving me the time of day and listening to me. And look, lastly, what I will say is, let's not sit here and argue. At the end of the day, I know YouTube and comments, there's going to be comments underneath and stuff like that. But the reality is what everyone says, at the end of the day, at the root of it, they all want what's best for this club. They're not saying it to be right or for any agendas. They want what's best for Tottenham Hotspur. And then lastly, go off and enjoy yourself. Look, your wife, your kids, your family members, they all give up so much, even in terms of monetary value and stuff, for you to be able to go to games, support this club, watch every game and everything else, for people to be able to do these pods. It's what we do it for. Moments like this. Go off and enjoy yourself for a week or two, and we'll see you back here very, very soon. Come on, you Spurs, we're European champions.
Well, listen, I've got some great news. I can tell you the 2024-2025 season is over. It's done. And I don't think even I can try and sell to people. I don't think even I can sell to people we'll do a season review. I think it's probably the only season we will not be doing a season review. But it did end in a trophy for Tottenham, a European one, a big one. And we've got a Super League Cup final to look forward to. What a crazy football club. Listen, when we're back, whenever we're back, we should hopefully be able to confirm who the manager is that's taking us, or who is or is not taking us into that Super League Cup final. But from me, from the broadcast extraordinaire Russ Williams, from the superb Patrick Tyrant, from the brilliant David at the Irish Hotspur, we have been the last word on Spurs. Thank you so much for your love, for your support, for everything. Have an amazing, amazing breakaway from Tottenham in the Premier League, because, my God, off the pitch, it is only starting to heat up. Take care. Loads of love. We still are the champions of Europe. From Russ, from Pat, from Dave, from me. We've been the last word on Spurs. Keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.